Well, I'm loving Upload season 3 so far. And I noticed, I think this is the first time you've directed for the series, right?
It is, yeah. I've worked with Greg on Space Force in whenever that was, 2019. And I've always been a massive fan of the show. And, sort of this was my first experience really jumping onto a show to direct that I'd been such a fan of for a couple of years. So it was sort of interesting in that way for me too.
Well, then what really stood out to you about the series then and made you want to get involved?
I think Uploads, in a world where there is lots of sitcoms and shows that are very much set in the real world and are very much about, real people's lives and everyday struggles. Upload for me very much delivers on being a sci-fi and a comedy and delivering on both barrels in that respect, but then also having these very sort of three-dimensional real characters. And it delivers on its promise, I think, that's what I always liked about it. It sets up this crazy world, and then it very much feels like the creators behind it thought, right, well, what's the craziest things we can do with this concept that we've promised? And then you have people's heads exploding, you have eyelids disappearing, you have avatars of teenage boys turn into fully grown women. It's just sort of, for me, it's always every episode, it gives you some crazy things that you wouldn't get in most of the sitcoms.
Well, what excited you about working on 303 and 304 specifically?
It was a bit tantalizing to think of, what worlds, what environments would I get to sort of build from the ground up just for my episodes, for my block specifically. And it sort of delivered. Just in my 2 episodes, we got to build some sets, man, right from scratch. And whereas a lot of sitcoms, you sort of filming in apartments, we got to build, Dune-esque call centers from the future. We got to build shared living environments, where we've got windowless, almost like it's like a prison for 30 odd people living on top of each other in, pods that are no bigger than coffins, and then we got to do a sort of beta 1.0 version of Lakeview that was, scary and full of glitches and, was the abandoned version of this Lakeview that we've seen for 2 seasons. So it just felt crazy that, for 2 episodes worth of TV, I got to sort of put my stamp on so many different environments as a director. And and that type of stuff, it looks great on camera straight away. It feels like you're shooting some little mini movies. So you get a lot of bang for your buck. So I was really pleased with what I got to have fun with.
Well, to kind of jump into the story a little bit, we see Nathan reunite with his mom, and Norm kind of becomes a part of the family quite easily. So what did you really want to come across about that dynamic and the way that they all interact together?
Well, the big thing that we talked about was, Nathan has been in Lakeview for 2 seasons now, and then we're finally getting to see him downloaded and back in the real world again. So we talked a lot about how, remembering what the real world would be like, and real life interactions and real life relationships, and feeling tired again. You remember Nathan's been in Lakeview for all this time where sleep's sort of automated and you go to sleep at the touch of a button. Suddenly he's having to get to sleep himself and wake up at terrible times, having slept with his mum and his mum's new lover in the same bed, so it was all that. It was being in heaven. What's it like when you're in heaven for so long and then you have to come back to the real world and deal with real world problems and real people? If you've seen the episodes, Nathan's mum's new boyfriend, he's not who anyone would want your mum to end up with. So it was all that stuff. It was seeing it's that full phrase of be careful what you wish for, of Nathan obviously all this time is wanting to be human again and get to be with Nora, but then, you know, us getting to have fun seeing him struggle with all the very real realities of that.
I think my favorite scene from these episodes was when Aleesha is trying to teach AI guy how to chew. I gotta know, was it hard for you guys to get through that scene?
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I think that's pound for pound the funniest moment in my block. You know, I think just seeing AI guy / Owen struggling to eat cheese is the most laugh out loud moment. And I sort of love how, because I don't know how common knowledge this is, but as a director, you have your pass. You know, you sort of see the work, you work with the editor, and then it's sort of handed off to the producers and all the grown-ups, you know, and then the next time you see it is often when it's out there on TV. So I'd indulge that moment quite a bit, thinking that, oh, they'll cut some seconds off that. But I think if anything, they added more. They obviously loved the cheese, the cheese eating as much as I did, because we really went for it. But so much of that is just Owen. I'm such an Owen fan, and it was just sort of making sure you had enough takes of that and committed to it, because for all the, you know, the jazzy things happening, I just knew that, you know, that was going to be one of the funniest moments in the show. So we had a good time shooting it, and we spent, you know, a good few takes perfecting, you know, what it would look like if AI guy tried to eat little cheese cubes.
Well, you know, I'm sure you guys shot out of order, but given how abruptly 303 ends, were you glad that you got to also dive right into 304 and pick that story back up?
Oh, completely. Yeah. There was talk of me jumping on to season 2, but I couldn't do it in the end. But that was only going to be one episode, the finale of last season. But yeah, this was much better. You sort of felt like across the 2 episodes, there was a real journey, you know, and the things that we sort of promised in Ep 3, I then got to then follow up with Ep 4. And it really did. It felt like, even though it was just 2 episodes of this thing, it did feel like getting to shoot a little movie. But, you know, I read some of the stuff that's to come in the season, and there's a few things in particular like, oh, I would have liked to do that as well, you know, but can't have it all. I was really pleased with what I got to do, and if anything, sometimes it's better because now I just get to watch it as a fan. You know, I get to see how the rest of the series pans out as a fan. So yeah, I can't wait to see it, as well as having worked on it.
And, you know, Nathan has been kind of hiding his nosebleeds from Nora, you know, so she's been, I guess, maybe living in a little bit of a bubble, thinking that, oh, things might be fine. You know, when that changes, how did you want kind of the energy between them to change going forward? Yeah,
I think like one of the common pitfalls, it's almost like cliche, is, you know, when you have a will they, won't they, once you get them together, it's sort of dull, right, in any show. Whereas with Upload, I just think it's totally different because, you know, they're competing against the afterlife, you know, they're competing against life and death and technology. And there's a few things going on this season. Like, yeah, Nathan's finally been downloaded, but you've got this ticking clock of death and potential, you know, the potential of a head exploding with the relationship. And the thing with Uploads is, you know, that might happen. Any other show, you think, oh, well, yeah, the main character's head is not going to explode. Whereas with Upload, you've set up this thing of multiple versions of people being uploaded and downloads. So what I love about Upload is the idea that his head might explode any minute is very viable, you know. And we definitely, you know, in terms of how the guys performed it, wanted to get that across. But then also just, you know, the fact that there were certain truths not told, and, you know, the wool was sort of pulled over Nora's eyes to an extent. It's sort of good in a way to see, you know, having had this relationship across technology between Nathan and Nora, all of a sudden they're dealing with some very, you know, real world problems that every couple has, you know. So yeah, we sort of leaned on that a bit as well, that, you know, there was sort of Wow, it's amazing to be face to face with a real human again, but then also real humans come with baggage and flaws. And, another element to Nathan we had a lot of fun with is, he's developed a bit of weight. He's got a bit of a belly on him, so even that, it was, the dream man's back, but he's just now, the almost like the analog version of what Nora's been used to. So yeah, there's a lot to play with in this season, and a lot that I think will, keep the story fresh and engaging for all the fans.
Well, your episode also introduced a new romance for Aleesha. So what did you want the audience's first impression of that relationship to be?
This is direct from Greg. I wish I could say stuff this intelligent, but yeah, it was this idea, this notion that in the near future, it's literally not worth mentioning what your preference is. The preference is just anyone who takes my fancy, anyone who catches my eye. And, it felt at the time, even just saying it now, it felt all, cool and like we were saying something, but we're pretty much there now, right? In terms of how fluid people's sexualities are. So yeah, it's very much in that sort of vein of things, I just sort of think when in Upload, we've set up a world where people are having sex with technology so often. The fact that she maybe dates some girls once in a while probably wouldn't get mentioned. It wouldn't be a thing for anyone involved. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with that, and I just loved that whole sort of story strand as well. Sort of getting the sort of felt like good screen time, well deserved, I felt.
I'm also really curious how you approach the relationship between Nathan's copy and Ingrid versus the real Nathan and Nora. Kind of what do you ask for differently when it comes to these scenes? Yeah,
the note was, we talked a lot. It was me and Robbie as well a lot of the time. We talk about, the Lakeview version, Nathan, just having that spring in his step that comes from almost like being in a honeymoon period again. He's got this newfound appreciation for Ingrid, and it's just like he's in the honeymoon period. He has that unmistakable glow of someone in the middle of a bit of a honeymoon period, and just a reappreciation for Lakeview, and actually this is sort of okay, right? In contrast to, real Robbie just struggling with that little bit of weight and just being tired again and being hungry again. We have him literally scavenging for food when he's had, God knows how long living off the Lakeview, eat what you want, spread. So all those sort of very real world things sort of taking its toll and acting to sort of contrast, the Robbie and the Nathan in Lakeview. And we did go for it in as much as, in the real world, we were putting, the extra bit of makeup on that made him look that bit more tired, that bit paler, that bit sweatier. And all those things that help build up what essentially becomes a rivalry. That's what's so genius about it. Real world Nathan very much becomes sort of jealous and threatened by himself, which is what's, so genius about Upload. It becomes this weird sort of love triangle where you've got two versions of the same people. So yeah, sort of all that went into sort of setting up this, this will they, won't they, and sort of have the audience guessing which version Nora is going to end up with, which I think is a lot of fun.
Amazing. All right. Well, that was all I had for you. Thank you so much for chatting with me, Tom. Oh my gosh, I enjoyed these episodes so much. So it was so great to be able to hear your insight on all the behind the scenes tidbits.
Lovely stuff. Great meeting you. Yeah.